Welcome to a new episode from Perfect English Podcast. Today it's going to be about listening. We're going to listen to some texts, and I'm going to ask you some questions about the texts after we're done. But before we start, let me remind you that I have included a quiz for you at the end of this podcast. You can check your understanding, and it's very good to retain the information you learned from this episode. All you have to do is follow the link I have left you in the description of this episode, and you're good to go. So now, without further ado, let's get to it. The question we have today is, do we really have more than 5 senses? Let's figure that out. Now, we all know the 5 senses, of course, but some people talk about 6 or 7 or even 10 senses. Is that really scientific, or is it just like a myth? So let's find out more about the senses we have. Now, when asked to name the senses, most people list 5. Touch, vision, hearing, smell, and taste. But physiologists group them differently. The general senses include the tactile sensations of touch, pressure, pain, and vibration. The special senses are vision, smell, taste, hearing, and balance. All of them associated with special receptor cells in the head. Of all the special senses, vision is probably the most important. The eyes contain about 70% of the body's sensory receptors, and nearly half the cerebral cortex is given over to visual processing. The special senses of taste and smell are close partners. Both are chemical senses, registering their sensations through chemoreceptors that detect chemicals dissolved in solution. Taste is said to be limited to 5 basic qualities: sweet, sour, salty, bitter, and umami, which is meaty. But receptors inside the nasal cavity can detect at least 10,000 different odors. The curling fluid-filled structures of our inner ears are responsible for 2 senses, hearing and equilibrium. Equilibrium monitors posture, the position of the body, especially the head, relative to gravity, and straight-line acceleration, such as the sudden forward movement of a car. So it might be okay to say that we have 5 senses, but according to physiologists, it is not the case. Remember that they have the general senses, and these are the tactile. Touch is one of them, this is one we know, but the new senses we might not have known before: the pressure, pain, vibration, and balance. These are 4 new senses for us. I didn't know about those. I knew about just 2 of them. And here, before we go to the next section, I read something while I was preparing this that is really useful and really important nowadays, especially with the MP3 players and everybody having their earphones in their ears all the time. So you might want to hear about this. You might know this, but trust me, it is very harmful, and you don't want to lose those tiny hairs inside of your ear, because that will really take the joy of music away. So let's get to this piece of advice. Now, the tiny hair cells that register vibration in your ear are fragile instruments. It doesn't take much noise to damage them permanently, leaving them among the 15% of Americans with noise-induced hearing loss. Noise level above 85 decibels do that kind of damage. Lawnmowers, hair dryers, motorcycles, and chainsaws can top this limit, but so can movie theater sound systems, nightclubs, and rock concerts. Among the most insidious culprits are earbuds attached to MP3 players. Because they may play music in your ears for hours, these players can reach up to 115 decibels, and because earbuds are inefficient transmitters, people often turn them up to the max. As a rule of thumb, if other people can hear your music when you have earbuds in, or if you can't hear any other noise through the sound, you're damaging your hearing. Keep MP3 players at no more than 60% of their maximum volume. Or indulge in a pair of noise-canceling headphones, which transmit sound at lower levels to better effect. So this is for all of you people, especially the ones who are listening to this podcast right now. Take very good care of the tiny hair cells that you have in your ears. Losing some may not sound like a big deal, but you are actually losing the ability of catching all those nice frequencies we have in music. And we don't want to lose those. We don't want to be in a place where we can just get some of the frequencies out there. And now we will move to our brain and neuroscience section. Our question is, do our memories work like a computer's hard disk drive? You may ask yourself, so how does a hard disk drive work anyway? Well, it stores the information in a limited space, and when this hard drive is full, you have to erase some memories to put new ones. So, do our memories work the same way? Do we have to erase some memories to put others, or is it unlimited? And the hard disk drive in a computer is a permanent storage device. So when you store information there, they stay there until you erase them or something wrong happens to the hard drive. It's different from the RAM, which is the random access memory, and that works on a temporary basis. So how does our memory work? Is it more like the random access memory thing? Is it a temporary thing? But then we have those long-term memories. So let's find out and know more about how our memories work. Without memory, people would live in a never-ending now, with no idea of where they have been or where they might go. The memory of representations of the world gives humans the unique ability to think about the past, present, and future. Scientists who study memory find it a tough nut to crack. Neural circuits responsible for memories lie scattered throughout the brain. Experts have found some brain regions to be particularly crucial. However, the hippocampus, so called because it resembles a seahorse, plays a significant role in emotion and memory. Lying deep in the forebrain, it receives sensory data from the senses and integrates them into a single experience. And now we come to the important thing. We have the working and long-term memory. Now, some memories last less than a minute and some last a lifetime. Working memory, a type of short-term memory, holds sensations for a few seconds. You remember the last few words you spoke or the last few ingredients you put in the stew so you may complete the tasks you have begun. Then working memory clears and you move on. Long-term memory is more like a filing cabinet. Some documents from a computer screen or tabletop get filed for later use. Information is more likely to make the transition from working to long-term memory if you pay particular attention to it. Repeatedly try to remember it or associate it with strong emotions. These memories are useful not as much for navigating through the moment as for making good choices and succeeding at life. Now, there's no question that some of us have stronger memories than others, but there is evidence everywhere that we can work on our memories to make them a lot better than we think they are. And the first thing we need to know is that we can transform those short-term temporary memories to long-term permanent memories if we focus more, if we pay attention to what we are learning, and a little repetition does help. I hope you found this episode useful, but I highly recommend that you take the quiz I prepared for you. You can find the link in the description of this episode because you will need to check your understanding of the things I talked about today. And taking a short quiz is not stressful. On the contrary, it is very useful to retain the information you have in this episode. This is your host, Danny, saying thank you very much for listening to another episode from Perfect English Podcast. I will see you again tomorrow. Thank you very much.